Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Collision Control Center. Finally, we're back with collisions on Saturdays, and that means Dynamite Download is back with Collision Control Center on the following Sundays. I am, of course, Mind Runner, and what an awesome collision we had. Definitely one for the sickos. We had surprises, incredible promos, but of course, we had some sick, crazy, insane wrestling action. We had two multi-person matches, a mixed gender tag, all the trimmings, all kinds of cool stuff that you can even bet, just like apparently Nana and the infantry were doing. You can bet that this was a collision that would go down in history for epic wrestling. Things kicked off with Moxley versus AR Fox. Now, I know most of us didn't expect AR Fox to win. We kind of hoped he would get some offense in, and he kind of did. But ultimately, this was a Moxley dominant match, which not only ended in AR Fox going to Lullaby Land, but he actually got his face beat in for it as well. Moxley came across dominant, and then post-match, Moxley was able to cut a promo on a Hangman that he knew wasn't in the arena, so it was one of those safe talking smack promos. Still, Moxley came across as a very intimidating character. We do hope that AR Fox gets a moment at some point. It'd be nice to get, he needs to get some W's. And this is a cat that's like a 30-year overnight success story. Let's get him some wins. But he served his purpose in this match. He was able to help Moxley look like the monster that he is. So overall, I'm giving this match an awesome. This was good. It was quick. It was to the point. It wasn't spectacular, but it's definitely perpetuating the story. Moving on, though, we got to the craziness of another 8-man tag. Now, I've seen a lot of complaints online, people complaining there's too many of these party matches. That's what they're calling them. To me, it's kind of like, oh, no, another steak dinner. Oh, and this time you get to have some lobster with it. And there's some cheese biscuits. I mean, come on. Twist my arm. I mean, this is, and the thing about these multi-person matches is even when you have the styles of like a Daniel Garcia or a Adam Cole or Roderick Strong or even FTR, where some of those matches tend to be a little more catch as catch can rather than the flippy do stuff that I really enjoy. Adding Bandito to this and adding multiple people, you get to see multiple styles all at once. You're hardly able to call this match boring when you've got so many people in the mix. And that's, again, one of the benefits of this 8-man tag. Bandito, of course, being the standout. One of the things that I love about Bandito is he's kind of in the same genre as, like, if you look at, like Lance Archer, Wardlow, if you look at Brody King, a number of these muscle meat guys that can also do the flippy-do stuff. Bandito's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. He's a small flippy-do guy that can do powerhouse moves. He's very strong, stocky. He's got a great base. And, of course, he was a standout in this match, as you knew he was going to and going to be. But also, kudos to FTR for being the I'm kind of liking this heel turn because they're really allowing a lot of these baby faces to shine. Ideally, I still think that the Paragon should have gone heel and FTR stay face, but I think I know why. We've talked about it on the main show. We're pretty sure it's going to lead to an FTR versus Cope and Christian match at some point. So I'm sure that's what they're building. And, of course, Stokely being Stokely. He led off the episode in the cold open, being typical him. Great stuff. And the overall match was great. And, yes, the heels came across with the dub. Want to point out some subtleties, though. I'm noticing that Takesh is starting to drop little hints of his frustration with the Don Callis family. Not completely, but Kyle Fletcher's definitely kind of stealing the limelight a little bit. And with Okada now joining the Don Callis family and Don Callis talking about how Okada's the best, even though he's quoted before saying Takesh is better than Okada, I think we're going to see a Takeshita face turn. He's going to turn on the Don Callis family and go babyface at some point, but they're dropping the seeds. This was a good match overall. I give it a smile. I give it a good rating. I think it was good. Definitely worth the watch. And the standout, of course, is Bandito. But then we had a post-match beatdown that also brought in the Outrunners. The Outrunners came in, and of course, Dax and Cass were like, hey, man, aren't we still friends? Aren't we buddies? Outrunners are having no part of it. They watched the program. They're aware of the product, and they told FTR there's nothing good about you guys. And so I think that's what we're building up to next. Outrunners versus FTR. I think FTR should lose to the Outrunners. I think that Outrunners need to go over. It's time to really get these guys going. It's time to get some super momentum in the tag team division. You've got the Hurt Syndicate, dominating, but let's get some momentum with some of these babyface tag teams. And I think the Outrunners need to be the ones, because the only way to win is to get a win. You can quote Truth on that. And then we had I think this basically was a Valentine to the Defy program, because this was in Seattle. And I think that this was Swerve's way of kind of doing a Valentine match, to all the fans that were with him in the Indies. It was Swerve versus Shane Taylor, as Full Tilt Deb calls Crisco hips. But this was actually a incredible matches. It was great because it not only gave Swerve some great offense, Shane Taylor did come across as a bit dominant. It wasn't a slaughter. It was Shane Taylor kind of was able to show some of the power that he has. But also a highlight was whatever was going on at ringside. Apparently the Infantry and Prince Nana were kind of going old school and doing some Pete Rose gambling in the corner. Money was being passed, and there was some Maker's Mark whiskey in the corner. The cameraman had to stay on the action, but if you're paying attention, and they even got Tony Schiavone to come in and pitch in. So at the end, it did look like Prince Nana got away with the win. I thought I saw Ashy Larry come in and make a bet as well. But in the end, of course, it was the Swerve stomp, and it was whose house? It was the house call. And then 1, 2, 3, Swerve got the victory. And I love the sign. There were two signs in there. There's a Defy sign, but also support your local independent wrestling. Great stuff. I went to an independent wrestling show in Hampton last night. It was awesome. And if you get a chance, find your local independent wrestling show, support the stars of the future. You will be so thrilled to be part of that. It is so worth it. Then we had the timeless one. Timeless Tony Storm addressed the crowd, the AEW fans. And again, it was nothing short of epic. This persona, this timeless persona that Tony Storm has gotten, it just thrills me continuously. Again, remember where she came from. And this is not a slam against WWE, because it goes both ways. But I love when talent go to a new promotion and they find their voice. You could argue Dana Brooke, the same situation in TNA as Ash by Elegance. One could argue Ethan Page is finding incredible success in NXT. You have Tony Storm, who seemed lost in WWE, came to AEW and has now become arguably its top star. Tony Storm's persona, as Carmen Sandiego, this soliloquy that she passed, it was cinematic art. It was fantastic. I highly recommend. Now, one of the key notes that AEW was highlighting is the quote that at All In, you're going to have to kill me. Now, a lot of people are worried that Mercedes Moné is going to get the W, become the AEW champion. I've been back and forth on this. I have been flip-flopping on my opinions. I actually, for a while, thought maybe Tony's going to retain the belt, and this is going to start the downfall of Mercedes Moné. But this quote has me scratching my chin a little bit, because I think what they're setting up is Toni Storm's going to lose to Mercedes, and this could be the end of Toni Storm, timeless Toni Storm as we know it. Now, not necessarily the amnesia where she was pretending and acting and coming back like she did with Mariah May. I think we're legitimately going to see a change in the Toni Storm character after this match. Perhaps she'll take some time off. We'll see. But I have a feeling that after this soliloquy that we're going to see Mercedes go over on Toni Storm. Let us know. Do you agree? What do you think? You think this is going to happen? Let us know. And then the chaos party continued. And again, chaos with a capital C, big smile. This was such a feel-good match. I mean, 6 of my favorite wrestlers in this match. And how can you not just look at this new conglomeration of Mark Briscoe, Hologram, and Willow Nightingale, 3 wrestlers that always bring a smile to my face. This was almost joy overload. But then, who were their opponents? Another one of my favorite tag teams, MXM Collection, with Taya Valkyrie, which is interesting that Deonna Purrazzo is not involved somehow. But this pairing of Taya and Johnny TV with MXM, I think, is fantastic. Great idea. And this was just such a fun match. MXM are always entertaining. Mark Briscoe's chicken's always great. Hologram, super flippy do action. And Willow, what's great about these mixed tags and having Willow involved is Willow's able to mix it up with the guys. And there was a moment where Mansoor tried to grab Willow by the hair, and Mark Briscoe wasn't having it, but then Willow got a good pounce on him. So seeing the aggression from the ladies on the men, it's fantastic. Now, we still need to run back that confrontation between Tomohiro Ishii and Taya Valkyrie. We need that match in AEW, so Tony, please book it. But of course, Mark Briscoe got the 1, 2, 3. It was such an awesome moment. We're great to see it. And Mark Briscoe, again, is, I'll spoiler alert, he's my top performer from this time, because not only was he a great leader in this mixed tag, but he is such a great workhorse in this company. He always produces a great match, regardless who he's wrestling, regardless if he's going to win or lose. And then we saw him again, because the Don Callis family came out. The Don Callis family came out a little bit later, and we'll see what happens there. Now, backstage, we got to talk about this backstage moment. As you remember, last time we saw Chris Statlander, she bumped into Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta was telling her, don't let other people tell you who you are. There's more to you, giving all this unsolicited advice. There's a little bit of a stare down between Stat and Marina Shafir. Once again, Wheeler Yuta's backstage trying to give some advice to Stat. Stat pushes him in the barricade. He turns around, and who's standing right there? John frickin' Moxley. And this was such a palatable moment. There was this awkward pause. Then Moxley picks up her phone and hands it to her. Just before he hands it to her, just when Stat's thinking, oh no, what's going to happen? He says, don't let anyone tell you who you are. So Moxley's watching. Is Statlander being groomed for the Death Riders? We're going to have to wait and find out. Do you want Stat in the Death Riders? Or is this going to be one of those things where we play this along and then she changes her mind and she helps Willow stop Marina Shafir, and then perhaps maybe Shayna Baszler joins the Death Riders? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But then, yes, a golden moment on Collision. Don Callis was out with Okada talking about how great Okada is. Takeshita probably not happy with that. But then Mark Briscoe came out because Don Callis was saying how Kenny Omega has no friends anymore. Mark Briscoe said that's BS. He had a great line where Don Callis, you sick, weird freak or something. But then he said he's also got another friend who's here tonight, and Kota Ibushi arrived. And what was interesting is I think there was a little confusion. People were really surprised to see him because it took a while for the pop to hit. He comes walking out, and everybody's like, wait a minute. Is that? It's Kota Ibushi. And there was a great moment. Of course, Lance Archer rushes. Mark Briscoe neutralizes Lance, the Murder Hawk. And, of course, Josh Alexander comes at Kota Ibushi. Ibushi dispatches him. And then we had this moment. This is where the heat was really cooking up. Okada slowly entered the ring. For a second, Ibushi could sense Okada coming in, and we had this brief confrontation before Okada went packing. So I think we're going to see possibly Ibushi definitely be involved with the Kenny match, but are we going to see Ibushi versus Okada at some point? Something's going on with this, but I think the timeliness of Ibushi coming back just before we get to All In, something's going down with this. Maybe we'll see Mark Briscoe and Ibushi involved somehow as well. It's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see. Good to see Ibushi back. I hope he's healthy. I think it's going to be good stuff. And then we had more chaos. This wasn't even a sanctioned match. This was just Big Bill and the Bad Apple Brian Keith just beating up the Workhorsemen. Just almost, it was an unofficial no DQ, just insane melee. When things started to settle down, the patriarchy came out and started talking some smack. Now, Big Bill and Brian Keith were talking back to him. We had some words were said about Nick Wayne's mom, but Christian announced that he and Nick Wayne are now going to go for the tag team titles. So what it does seem like is Nick and Christian are going to take on Big Bill and Brian Keith, perhaps at All In, perhaps before then. But I do think this is setting up the eventual tag team of Christian and Cope. Because what I predict is going to happen is Nick Wayne's and Kip Sabian are going to turn on Christian. Christian's going to be all alone. Cope's going to be all alone dealing with FTR, and I think this is when we're going to see that final tag team unification. So we'll see what happens. And then speaking of tag teams, Jet Speed finally got some W's after taking some L's last couple weeks. And we got to see the Gates of Agony. And we've been talking on Dynamite Download about the Gates of Agony possibly being that crew that Ricochet's been looking for. And Ricochet was on commentary. And I got to say, Gates of Agony looked great. They were dominant. But, of course, Jet Speed was just too fast for the power of Gates of Agony. There were some great moments. I mean, Speedball literally was a speedball. He got out of a submission move from Bishop Khan, literally turned himself into a cannonball and landed on top of Khan. Of course, the Jet himself, Kevin Knight. I don't know how this guy could do a ladder match without a ladder. He got incredible air. He got the pin. He got the 1, 2, 3, and Jet Speed got the W of the Gates of Agony. Also, what was interesting was a visibly frustrated Ricochet. Also on commentary, continued to make excuses, calling Jet Speed cheaters, and was making a lot of excuses for the Gates of Agony. So definitely, I think that he has some fondness for the Gates of Agony. Will they be the ones that he chooses to join up with? Going to be tough to say because they got the L on this match. So we'll see what happens. And then it was time for the main event. And the main event, it was the ladies' 8-man crazy party match. This was beautiful chaos in its entirety. There was a great backstage promo earlier where Athena was saying, if we win, I'll make you all minions. Of course, Megan Bayne, Penelope, and Tekla wanted no part of that. And then we had some great promos from Ty J, Queen Aminata, and Thunder Rosa. Now, this is a great chaos match that also promoted multiple women's wrestling angles at once. And, of course, there was this great just 4-on-4 melee. And the ref was struggling to keep order here. If you haven't been following Ring of Honor, though, the matches, Thunder Rosa is going for the Ring of Honor title from Athena, And this is supposed to take place at Texas, but it's going to take place at the Ring of Honor Supercard the night before Texas All In. I think that, Tony, please, if you're going to do that, you need to also have Thunder and Athena, at least on the buy-in, if not in some sort of form of match at All In. You can't deny them, especially if you were using them to help promote All In and not have them on the card. We got to do something. Yeah, I understand they're going to be on Ring of Honor, but let's bring them onto the main card, not necessarily for the Ring of Honor title, but have some kind of, maybe a three-way, like Athena, Billy Starks, and Red Velvet versus Thunder and Persephone and maybe one other wrestler returning, something like that. Match itself was fantastic. Tekla's fantastic. Tekla is living up to that persona of being a spider. I am surprised at how tiny she is. She's even smaller than Penelope, which was interesting, but she's continuing to do her thing. Queen Aminata was a standout in this match as well, continuing to dominate. And Thunder Rosa had the win, but Billy Starks distracted the ref when Red Velvet slid the Ring of Honor title in. And of course, Athena was able to use it behind the ref's back, knocked out Thunder Rosa, got the 1, 2, 3. And we ended the show with this trio right here. Red Velvet going heel and joining forces with Billy Starks and Athena. Yes, if you're going to have the one-on-one match of Thunder Rosa versus Athena at Ring of Honor the night before, you need to book this trio versus Thunder and two others of her choosing. Perhaps Ty J. I don't know. Something to do. But great way to end it. It doesn't always have to end on a happy note, but I definitely, Thunder is going to be bringing the ass kicking after this match. And Red Velvet, who is going to be teaming with Athena against Thunder Rosa and Persephone at the Grand Lucha Mania Chaos CMLL New Japan AEW crossover event sponsored by CMLL. I think, or is it New Japan? Well, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be incredible. Make sure you check it out. All right. My top performer was Mark Briscoe. He is the patriarch of the conglomeration. The dude was doing multiple jobs tonight, leading that mixed tag, but also reintroducing Kota Ibushi to the AEW audience. And he was a great mouthpiece for him. Also, always fun to watch, always there in the clutch. We got to get some gold back on Mark Briscoe. Chicken needs gold, and that's it. I mean, the dude is always a joy to watch. Anytime Mark Briscoe's in a match, I love it. And, of course, SBD's pick was Bandito, which I am not mad at all. Bandito was on my short list of top performers. In an 8-man tag, he was the clear standout in that entire crew, being able to do the beef meaty stuff as well as the flippy do. That was Bandito. Fantastic. Always fun to watch. I love how many wrestlers I say that about. Fun to watch. That seems to be a common thing among a lot of these wrestlers. AR Fox, Hologram, Willow, Thunder Rosa, the MXM Collection, the Jet Speed, even the Outrunners. Everybody's fun that I've mentioned are fun to watch. And when you have a roster full of people that you can say that about, you got an enjoyable show no matter what. So overall, I give this entire show an awesome face. This was fantastic. This is awesome. Overall, it was great. Now let's check really quickly. Take a peek at the rankings in our draft. At the top is a 3-way tie. Ranger, SPD, and Steven are all in a 3-way tie of 7 apiece. It is a brutal battle. Of course, it's still early. And just behind him, Brent and I are tied with 5 apiece. Bobby with 4. Aaron and Courtney and Cray are tied at 3 apiece. And my better half, Full Tilt Deb, with 1. But again, as we learned in the last draft, do not sleep on Full Tilt Deb. She usually starts slow but ends close to the top, so don't get comfortable. All right, folks, that does us for the Collision Control Center. I am Mind Runner. We will see you for our regular show Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central to review Dynamite. Until then, goodbye and good night. Bang.